recovering from rape, recovering from molestation, getting over, moving on with your life after a lot of bad things have happened to you. The actual assault, the violation, the feeling dirty, the being used, all of those things are different gopher holes. So they need to be addressed individually, and you'll find that you'll be sleeping better and not having so many problems when you start breaking them down. Talking about things and getting them out is how we take it from our subconscious to our conscious. And there's a lot of things. I think a lot of people, almost everybody I know, talks to themselves because when they verbalize something, they get it. So why do you need to talk about it? That's why. When it comes out of your mouth, you're like, oh, holy crap. And you do that with when you're trying to find your keys. You do that when you're, where did I park my car? Oh, yeah, I drove down the thing. And you're like, oh, yeah, I got it. Rape, molestation. We keep these things secret because we're ashamed and we're afraid and we're scared. But when you're looking for your keys, you say, and then I walked in the door, I reached in my pocket, oh, there's my keys. Overcoming these things, mentally speaking, when you go from the subconscious to the conscious, it does the same thing. It also will put the nightmares and the terrors and the flashbacks at bay because you're not trying to hide it. Your nightmares and your flashbacks are your brain saying, hey, we got this information you need to deal with. When you start talking about it and you start releasing it, it helps your conscious mind connect with your subconscious mind. So your subconscious doesn't feel like it needs to throw this stuff in your face. The primary problem here, though, is a mindset and a belief system that we have been taught since we were children, and the generation before them, and the generation before them. So one of the best ways to help get over molestation or rape is, are women and children people? A lot of times when we're making excuses for the perpetrators, well, I was small, well, I was out at night because I was a girl, I shouldn't have, and that's where the blame goes to. Well, you should know better because a girl shouldn't. Again, gang rapes are frequently when someone is abducted and they can have an escort, and the escort is beaten up as well. So being alone or having somebody with you doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be safe from something like that. It is bad people. And that's because they don't believe that women or children are people. They are property, they are objects, and that they have the right to treat them any way they want to. I'm going to deal with some American laws because I'm an American. So, the 14th Amendment of the United States of America says, all persons shall not be denied rights. All persons. Not some people, but all persons. So, but that didn't clarify things. So in 1875, Minor versus Harper, you can go ahead and look that up. That's on voting rights and whether or not a woman is classified as a citizen. So in the 14th Amendment, they said all persons, but it's still coming up again because in 1875, they're like, well, are women persons? Are they citizens if they were born here and nationalized there? Would they have the right to vote? Because they're women. The Constitution doesn't say unless you have a vagina. It says if you are a person that is born in the United States, you are a United States citizen and you have the right to vote. But that didn't give us the right to vote, did it? They're looking at it again in 1875. Is a woman a person that would have the right to vote? They decided no. They decided that the states can decide and that they're a special class. Women make up pretty much half the world. Half the world. So half the world in 1875, because it wasn't just America, right? It's all over. Women were still not class. They're a special class. They're not really a person. They're a special class. There's a lot of different things that happened through the years. In Roe versus Wade, that's what people get really, it's a very, very sensitive subject, right? It wasn't about abortion. All this fight, all this, oh, abortion, 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 abortion. It was, does a person have the right to privacy? Can the federal government get into your medical records and into your doctor's office and into your decisions for your life and make decisions for you. In Roe versus Wade, what they did was they decided that a woman, a woman, is a person, according to the U.S. Constitution, that in fact has that right to privacy. There's been cases back and forth, but that's what was decided, that women classify as a U.S. citizen, and that they, as a U.S. citizen, have the right to see the doctor and make decisions for their life without government involvement. The government does not have right to their medical records. And that, by default, made abortion legal, because the government doesn't have access to a person's medical desires, concerns, operations, procedures. It's not the government's business, because they are, women, a U.S. citizen. So I'm going to get into the injustice system and the way that laws are actually applied in the U.S. That's a different department. So 1993. This is, no, again, people, I know I'm old, but Roe versus Wade was my lifetime. 1993 happened in my lifetime. So when we're talking about how long have women been declared people or citizens, we're talking in my existence. Previous to this, women were not. We were property. Oh, did I write it down? Oh, it was 1848 before the courts decided that a woman could keep her wages. Before that, if she worked and she earned her own money, it went to the husband, because he owned her, and if she earned it, therefore it was his property. So women were slave labor, they were sex objects, they were property, and it wasn't until 1973 that the courts actually declared that women are U.S. citizens and have the right to privacy like men do. My lifetime. So this 2022 overturning of Roe versus Wade, abortion's illegal. Well, let's put it this way. It is up to the states to decide if it's legal or not legal. And in the agreement of that, they said now we can go after gay rights, now we can go after birth control, now we can go after all of these things. They're not declaring in the overturning of Roe versus Wade, they're not declaring that abortion on its face value is wrong. They're declaring, back to the 1875 law, that you can separate and say that there are different classes of citizens that do not qualify for constitutional rights. That's why they're saying you can go after gay rights, and you can go after all of these other, and interracial marriage and all these things, birth control. You can go after these things now, because we are saying in our 2022 ruling that there are different classes of citizens, that women are not, by face value, covered under the Constitution. That's what that ruling was. It wasn't a abortion legal, things belong to the states. It was the U.S. Supreme Court declaring that you can separate citizens of the United States by their gender and by their belief system, and you can classify them into a different category. So if we're going to tackle rape and the use of women and children as property, we need to tackle, how are we defining people? That's what we need to tackle. Are women and children people? Do they have inalienable rights? We go after other countries for child brides and for marketing women. We go after sex traffickers. But as long as governments recognize and say that a woman does not have the same rights as men, they're going to continue to be treated as property. That's a societal issue. That's where the rabbit hole ends, is until women have the right to get into prostitution themselves if they choose to be this and that, or to have their own income. The other thing, I don't know if I did bring it up, but it wasn't until 1993, again in my lifetime, that it was nationally against the law to rape your wife. It was perfectly legal. All you had to do was talk a woman into marrying you, which is really easy, unfortunately, and you had the right to rape her anytime you wanted, and it was legal. It was perfectly legal. Some states banned it earlier, but for nationally, for every state to say that just because a woman is married to you doesn't mean you can't rape her, that didn't happen until 1993. So rape has been legal until relatively recently, my lifetime. So that's what we need to address. We want to stop rape. We want to stop child abuse, molestation. We need to start defining them as people and give them some rights to fight back. So, overcoming rape, overcoming molestation. Start talking about it. Get it from your subconscious to your conscious. How do we try to prevent it in the future? We start defining women and children as having inalienable rights and not as property, that they should be treated any way they would. And that will attack toxic masculinity, that they feel like they need to score and they need to be stronger and they need to take advantage of somebody. So we got to follow that rabbit hole all the way fucking down. Anyways, talking about it is, again, therapies, group therapies. When you are able to talk about it, verbalize it, get it out, meet other people that have lived through similar circumstances, the nightmares and the terrors will stop.